Here in the studio. Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Also here, Alexander Kwamina Afenyo-Marking. He's MP Efutu and Member Public Accounts, Defense and Interior Committees of Parliament. Welcome and congratulations.
Thank you, boss. I appreciate the invitation.
Great. And I just told you a while ago that there are some rumors about him that Parliament leadership, he may be in the running for it. He pretends he's unaware. I'll say it that way. Also joining us via Zoom is Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh. He is Executive Director of the Ghana Center for Democratic Development, CDD Ghana. Thank you very much, Prof, for joining us. Right, okay, so Prof has responded, but I gather he's not unmuted. It happens to all of us.
Thank you, Samson.
Great. We will also be joined by Dr. Joe Adai, who is co-chairman, Joint Steering Committee of the Akpafu and Lulubi Traditional Areas for the issue about why they are also insisting, or if they are not, they should tell us what is going on in their area, even as some lawyers insist that the EC has disenfranchised them, and that cannot happen, so it must organize elections there immediately before the 7th January inauguration, and that the Speaker for Parliament must not be nominated or approved until these people have representation in Parliament. So this morning, I do not know about Dr. Joe Adai, but you may call it again a lawyer's file. All lawyers joining us this morning. Right, so we can begin on this note. First of all, we bring you this report of the violence that happened. We're interrogating the violence and asking whether the sufferers will get any justice. Remember, 6 lives have been lost in this election. Let's hear Justice Vedu bring us this report. Of the people who were killed, and we have shown 3 of them so far, and now with Samira Zakaria, who was killed in the Savilugu constituency. Yeah, the very little child that suffered in the elections there. It's a primary 4 pupil described by an uncle as an excellent child, unfortunately losing her life. Ibrahim Abbas, Ablekuma Central constituency. That's Ibrahim Abbas in your shot. And Rita Otu, Odododio constituency, 15-year-old. That's her picture in your shot. All right, let's take that again. Killed in an election, put together by Justice Vedu. So number 1, Tajuddin Al-Hassan, Techiman South constituency. Number 2, Abdallah Ayarik, Techiman South constituency. He's only 18, an electrician. Emmanuel Dompre, Odododio constituency, 36 years old. He worked at the post office. Then Samira Zakaria, Savilugu constituency, born in 2006, a primary 4 pupil described by an uncle as an excellent student who came 3rd when she took her last exam before COVID-19. He also says that she was a hard-working girl who stayed home most of the time away from school when there is no school. Right, Ibrahim Abbas, I have not announced him already in your shot, Ablekuma Central. Rita Otu, Odododio constituency, 15-year-old. Right, and as we know, several have been injured. We are told about those who are in hospital, including a journalist who was also shot, and the person who opened the fire in the circumstance being a national security operative stationed with the presidency, presently before the court, facing several charges. So let's see how all that goes. Right, so let me begin with you gentlemen in the studio. Why must this happen, Sammy? Why must 6 people lose their lives in an election?
Samson, thank you very much for this question, and let me say good morning to all our cherished viewers and listeners. The video we just watched is very heart-wrenching, very sad. This should not happen in any constitutional democracy such as ours, because this is not the first time we are having elections. We had elections in 92, 96, 2000, 2004, 2016. In none of these elections did we see what we just saw. In none of those elections did we see innocent Ghanaians being killed, being beaten, and maimed at the level we saw in the just ended 2020 presidential and parliamentary elections. What justification can we give for this? No justification. Absolutely no justification. One would have expected that having come this far, we would have made progress. We would have consolidated the gains we have made in this democratic experiment by ensuring that due process was followed and that the process was peaceful. Something, the reason why we have witnessed the killing of innocent Ghanaians, most of whom are supporters of the National Democratic Congress, is because we have a president and an incumbent party who believe that election is about cutting hairs and not counting hairs. We have a president and an incumbent political party who believe that the way to win an election is not by selling your message to the electorate, but by using brute force and gun violence.
Okay, I wish I don't come in at this time.
Yeah.
But when you say we have a president who believes that in an election we should be cutting heads and not counting heads, I think that's inappropriate.
Let me explain to you why.
You can make your point without making that direct attack to the president, because we do not have any evidence to show that the president was involved in any of these
now, you
violence.
see, there is ample evidence to show that these killings were done by officers of our security agencies, men clothed in military uniforms and national security apparels working for the state, who shot into crowds who were not holding any weapons, were not destroying public property or firing at anybody, but shot at them and killed people in the process. Now, because the president is the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, and these people were weaponized, recruited, incorporated into our security agencies under his tenure, he takes the ultimate responsibility for that. We're all in this country when the Ayawaso by-election happened.
We do not know. We do not know.
Mm-hmm.
Very respectfully, I don't want us to have a banter. Mm-hmm. And from the way you've started presentation, I'm sure we can have a very smooth presentation going forward. But would you be kind enough to recant the portion that the president believes in cutting heads and not counting heads?
No.
Because we cannot have evidence to tie the president to it, irrespective of the fact that he's the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Can we just take that off and deal with the issues as we know them, that police or military have been involved in some wrongdoing?
Let's call a spade and not a digging tool. Under whose tenure? You just made a point that that young lady who was shot and killed was shot and killed by a member of our National Security Council, right? we know that gentleman, I will not even call him a gentleman, we know that guy to be the bodyguard of Lord Comey, who works at the presidency. Here I'm talking about the guy called Kula, who shot.
His real name is Collins Kweko.
Exactly. And injured a policeman at Ablikuma Central, killing one in the process. Now, under whose tenure was he incorporated into the National Security Council? Under whose tenure?
I can accept you saying that this have happened under the tenure of President Akufo-Addo.
Yes.
But I think it's unacceptable to say that he believes
not just
in cutting heads and not counting heads.
I'm building a point.
I mean, we can move on without this.
Something.
To say the president believes in cutting heads.
What I mean by
can we just take that out and move on?
When I say cutting hairs and not counting hairs,
he doesn't believe in that. We cannot say the president believes in that.
Hold on. This is the first time that we are having the National Security Council maintaining an armed force that they deploy for election purposes. We're all in this country when the Short Commission, in their recommendations, stated that that was an illegality and violated the 1992 Constitution. The president rejected that recommendation.
Portions of the
recommendation. That particular recommendation, refused to disband that armed force at the National Security Council. Here we are talking about the National Security Council, which he chairs, continue to maintain it and deploy them for purposes of this year's elections.
Okay.
And these are the people who have killed innocent Ghanaians.
So let's make progress here. Wait.
We are addressing the problem.
Let's make progress here.
Address the root cause of the problem.
Let's make progress here. Let's make progress here. Replace president believes in cutting heads rather than counting heads with these have happened under the watch of the president. We can go ahead with that. That's acceptable on this platform.
Semantics.
Let's go. Please.
The point I'm making here, Samson, the point I am making here is that the reason why this did not happen under Kofo, the reason why this did not happen under Mills, the reason why this did not happen under President Mahama, the reason why we didn't see people getting killed in elections under President Kofo is because those were peace-loving leaders who believed in the rule of law and who allowed the systems we have built over the years, to work in elections. The reason why we are seeing people killed, innocent Ghanaians being killed in this 2020 general elections, and we are still seeing security agencies firing at peaceful protesters, is because of the kind of leadership we have today. We all saw what happened at Ayawaso West Wagon. Today, what has happened to the perpetrators of those atrocities? They are still walking free. Even the findings that the president accepted to implement, that is the prosecution of Double, the guy who admitted to have carried a weapon illegally, has not been implemented. Nobody has been prosecuted. They've all been left off the hook. And you see, when you fail to punish wrongdoers, you embolden wrongdoers to engage in wrongdoing with brazen impunity. That is what we saw on display between the 7th and the 10th of December when we went for this year's elections. And so what has happened is regrettable. This election, when we were going into this election as key stakeholders, we thought it was going to be peaceful, free and fair. Unfortunately, that was not the case. For the first time in the history of this country, Samson, we saw armed military men with sophisticated weapons in constituency coalition centers. We saw military men interfering in the collation of results, seeking to swap in sheets, seeking to change results. And when the people protested, they shot some of them and killed them. What happened in Techiman? We had a protest after the EC did the charade they described as coalition. We thought what they had done did not constitute coalition. And so we said, do the proper thing and let's collate the results and declare the winner. We started protesting. Nobody fired a gun. Nobody assaulted anybody. The next thing we saw was the military shooting at the people and killing 3 in the process. What business did the military have in the first place?
The CID suggests that there was shooting from the people.
Okay, there is a video.
Whilst the NDC says that the shooting emanated from only the security, the CID suggests there was shooting from somebody within the people.
I have not seen that account from the CID, but at least I've seen the video footage of what happened at Techiman's house. Nobody in the crowd was holding a gun and nobody was firing a gun. It was rather the police and the military officers that who were firing. The video is available and I'm sure your producers can play that. In Ablekuma Central, what happened? No NDC supporter was holding a gun. Nobody fired a gun. Rather, it was this national security operative who came to the center, fired warning shots, asked people to leave. When the people refused, started firing directly at people. In fact, shot a police officer. The EC officials there, I'm sure you've seen the video, I think it was produced by a reporter at JoyNews here, had to flee for their lives. We saw EC officials jumping walls in Awutu Senya East, which you made reference to in your take, where in the voter registration exercise, the Member of Parliament, Howard Kumsin, had admitted to firing gunshots at a registration center, without our law enforcement agencies doing anything about that. On voting day, again, we saw thugs working with this Member of Parliament, firing at NDC supporters and injuring a journalist in the process. So in all these cases, the NDC has been at the receiving end. We have been the victims. There is no record of any NDC person.
So in your shot is that footage
at Techiman,
where the shooting happened in Techiman.
Yeah.
All right, so you can see the guns going there. You can see the crowd far apart, and you can see the security, military, police lifting their guns up, and some of them went in there. Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh will tell us whether or not the thing to do is to fire live bullets or to use some other means. Was it a situation that they could have done otherwise than to actually shoot, fire live bullets to disperse the people?
And you see something, if you look at this video footage.
Okay, I get that. So you can take a pause now.
If I can just wrap up.
Yes.
If you look at this video footage, you realize that the CID account is false because nobody shot any gun from the crowd. Clearly what they did was absolutely wrong. And so for me, what has happened is unacceptable. It is a dent on our democratic gains as a country. And for me, it will continue to remain a blot, an indelible blot on the reputation of President Nana.
That's why the NDC in Parliament is asking for the IGP's head, that he must resign.
Because he was in charge of security as far as this election process was concerned. Whether or not the government of the day allowed him to...
But you agree, once you are done with your presentation on this, you agree that going forward, what I refer to, you will not use that expression. You can say under the president's watch. But you cannot say...
Honestly, I don't know what is wrong with it.
It's important, very important. No, it's very important. We ought to be responsible in the way we do our things on the media. I just told you about this guy who was arrested by the police that I am saying they didn't treat him well. There's a lot of irresponsible commentary on the media, and we need to check that. So if people are doing wrong, we should check them.
No, but what I said,
we must also be careful not to use
irresponsible comments. I think in all fairness,
but it is wrong to say that the president believes in cutting heads rather than counting heads.
Is something wrong with that expression?
It's absolutely wrong.
What I mean by that, and I've explained myself.
It's absolutely wrong.
It's absolutely wrong to say that.
Right.
Is there not evidence to show that
it's absolutely
under President Akufo-Addo,
that cannot be justified under any circumstance?
We've seen the use of brute force by the national security and our security agencies in elections.
That is understandable. But to say that under him, that's right.
Yes.
But to say that he believes in cutting heads and not counting heads.
But if he doesn't believe in it, would he have allowed this? Something. If he doesn't believe in the use of brute force, firing at peaceful protesters, will we be seeing these things?
I really believe that, and we have a lot of time to have a discussion this morning. I really believe that
let's make progress.
If you could retract that portion of it, you don't lose anything.
If you want me to rephrase, I will rephrase. President Akufo-Addo believes in the use of violence and brute force in elections. And that is why we are
that's inaccurate.
That is accurate.
No, you cannot say that.
But Samson, what are you saying?
Okay, so even your rephrasing is also problematic.
That
we
is
will
a
not,
fact.
no, we will not take that on this show. I'm sorry. Yes, Afenyo, 6 lives. And the SWAT force that he's talking about, that the Emil Short Commission found out about, were actually, set up in 2010. Not within Akufo-Addo's regime.
But they were never used for any election under the NDC.
Your point was that he brought them in. Yeah.
For election purposes.
Well, Samson, let me again express appreciation for the opportunity on your platform. And I thank you for your bold step in guiding this discussion. My colleague, in his submission, indicated that since '92, this is the worst situation we've had in terms of violence-related matters arising in an election. I want to put on record that this is factually inaccurate. At least in 1992, we know the widespread violence, even to the extent that the MPP had to boycott an election where even counting and all that, people were physically prevented and all that. We know. It's a matter of public record.
92 was very intimidating. It was the military.
Well, but it was under the NDC's watch.
Of course.
Now, 2000, I just want to specifically make mention of Kwamina Bartels was stabbed, broad daylight. Kwamina Bartels, he was a candidate, MP, Ablekuma North. In 2012, I sitting here, an NDC constituency organizer, a week to election, pushed me into a gutter, and the then MC granted him bail. He was never prosecuted. In fact, 2 attempts were made on my life. At Akosua village, I was saved by my tribesmen. The guy was holding a gun, and right behind him was an NDC pickup. When we got them arrested, they vanished. That was in Winneba. People know it. The records are still there. 2008, if you may recall, NPP made a case regarding violence in Volta region. What did Afarijan say? When people who were at the collation center were physically prevented by NDC, I wouldn't use tax, NDC members from observing the process. When we petitioned, he said, oh, as for these ones, they are criminal matters. Report that one to police. What happened? Please, with respect, recently we had Kwanzaa Hayford, the Fantiman MP, who was shot on his campaign trail. We don't know who did it. We are talking about violence. But soon thereafter, we heard of the matter at Aguna West, Cynthia Morrison, whereupon the NDC candidate was at the police station to grant those guys bail. People were armed and were going to kill an MPP member of parliament and a candidate. When he was interrogated, National Security has the guy on your NDC PC for Aguna West on record as having told National Security that those were the boys of Atu Forsen, my respected colleague, Ejumako MP. It's there. Now, let's go to Tripoli. We had a by-election there. Perhaps Joy FM will do us a favor by showing the footage. The Tripoli, what happened? Under President Mahama. I am saying that in elections, some of these things happen. But to attack the president, to say that it's the ruling government, they want to use brute force to achieve an aim, is most unfortunate and inaccurate. And I don't expect this to be coming from you as the National Communication Officer of a party, NDC. Look here, your party is being unreasonably greedy in your way you are approaching matters before and after the elections. Before the elections, you made it loudly clear that you were not going to accept the results. You said you were not going to accept the result. You started inciting your people. Your people protest with violence. You won't show those protests. At Techiman South, when the results were going to be declared, check the footage again. Your PC physically prevented the returning officer. Is that the law? Is that what you trained them to do? And they went on radio that people should come to the collation center. Something untoward was happening. And your people are moved in there, trying to create a chaotic situation. It is unfortunate. And my condolences to the families. It's unfortunate that the isolated cases, even if it is one death, we don't need it. Even if it is one death. But you guys must be more responsible. Why? From 92, you had 8 years. You got it again 8 years. So under the 4th Republican dispensation, you have had it 16 years. Why are you behaving as if you've never been in power before? Demonstrate some political maturity. Why?
So let's speak to the violence.
I'm linking it.
Yeah. You have taken us to 92,
yes,
which nobody really wants to talk about.
Very well.
And then you've taken us to Tripoli, where actually we know that it was the military that was the national security that was involved. We also know other incidents where national security persons were the ones involved. But he's saying that you haven't had it in this kind of scale.
In fact, I
deliberately kept quiet when he was talking.
Oh, I will not kill you.
Something. Suffice to point out that there can't be any justification for any death as a result of election.
That's right.
I mean, it must be condemned on certain terms. But I need to equally point out the posture and the behavior of the NDC. For instance, election results have been declared.
We'll deal with the
No, I'm dealing with it has an interlocking relationship. Permit me. Because he says that there's protest, and as a result of the protest, the police or the security agencies are reacting in a certain manner unacceptable. And I'm trying to put some point.
In the Sunyani case, Techiman case that we're looking at, you saw that those protesting, said to be NDC supporters, were actually, pelting. You can see it now.
Yes.
They were throwing stones at the security officers. The question is this how to respond? To kill 2 people? In fact, the NDC claims that there's a 3rd person who died after the event, not on the spot.
At the risk of being repetitive, I'm saying that there can be no justification. I mean, that somebody dying. But I am also saying that what is the root cause? The root cause is some irresponsible posture, behavior, utterances of responsible adults who are to know better and are politicians. And I'm saying this because, why? We've had an election. If you have issue at the collation center as a candidate, must you physically prevent the announcement? Must you go on radio to call people to come? Should they be pelting stones at the police? That aspect, Sami will not tell the world. Look at what happened at Ridge 3 days or so ago. Did we need that? Why? Samson, I came here with my pink sheet.
What happened at Ridge?
Right, the protest. Was it a peaceful protest by their people?
I think the only problem was the burning of ties.
No, Samson, with all due respect. Don't let us say the only problem. I am saying that, was it a peaceful protest? No. Was it a protest by the NDC party? Yes. Were they incited to do what they did by responsible leaders of their party? Yes. Did those leaders hide themselves? Yes. Did they allow the vulnerable youth to go onto the street to do that illegal thing? Yes. Was it right? No. Is it the case that they have never tasted power? Is it the case that they've never had an election where the opposition has had a problem with it before? So why the conduct?
Can I?
Sure.
You see, I stopped him.
Yes.
and have here categorically stated that will not be associated with comments like he made.
Very well.
I think that you can also make your presentation without trying to refer to, or even though you haven't mentioned anybody's name.
Right.
You are talking about clear inciting of the people to get there. And what we know,
well, if I've created that impression,
the police arrested,
I'm ready to...
as many as 30 people were involved. They were taken to court and they have been granted bail.
Right.
The point is that the police hasn't said that it was not peaceful. Their only problem was the burning of tires, which they don't want to happen.
That makes it a violent protest. That makes it violent. You can't burn tires, stop motorists from...
They didn't attack anybody.
Well, but if you are burning tires, you are setting fire. You know the effect of it.
Okay.
All right? On a public property. Now, let me make the point.
Well, generally, it was peaceful, even though a couple of people may have
You may want to say so.
We have heard about
you
that.
may want to say so. Just as somebody is using an isolated situation to make a general judgment of a matter, it is also within my right to say that burning of tires as part of your protest is unwarranted. It makes it violent, and obviously, if you are incited by a responsible person to do it, then watch your steps, because at the end of the day,
the demonstration Afenyo is referring to is what is in your shot right now. And you saw earlier they put blocks, cement blocks in the middle of the road, and now you are watching Wa Central. The demonstration happened, various parts of the country. I didn't want you to bring in it because we are going to discuss the demonstration itself.
Well, very well. So what I'm trying to point out is that, look, violence and elections, we as politicians must do everything within our power to restrict ourselves and ensure that we campaign on issues where we have issues with elections. We find a better way of communicating that, following due process, rather than perhaps trying to create an impression that somebody has deliberately messed us up and that the people should go and destroy public property. The NDC,
but you agree with him that he's factual when he says this is unprecedented.
No,
6 people being killed in election.
Oh, please, with respect, I'm sure you don't want to refer to 92.
Who was killed in the 92 election?
Please. I deliberately kept quiet for you.
I don't remember any numbers from 92, but what was it?
I just don't want to. I just don't want to. Have that banter. That's why I kept quiet.
It's okay. He's okay now.
It is not factual to say that the isolated incident with
6 people being killed. That's a focus.
I am saying that it is not factual to say
that's unprecedented.
That is unprecedented. It's not factual.
What's your counterfact?
I would want to rest there.
What's your counterfact?
I would rest there without more.
Okay.
I'll rest there without more.
All right. What do you make of, before I go to Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh, what do you make of Collins Kweku? He's a national security person, and he's at the presidency. And he's being prosecuted now. He shot, at least we're told, about 2 people lost their lives as a result of his shooting. And then we have a journalist who has also been severely wounded. He's going through surgery as a result of that. The police, this is their statement about what happened. They say that, one of the victims, that's a police inspector, Nixon Awuni, stationed at Accra Central Divisional Headquarters. Pius Kwanin, a journalist, the one who is presently in hospital with the Global News Watch, and Rashid Umar, a trader and NDC vice chairman at Sabon Zongo electoral area. On the 8th of December, as collation of election results was going on at the collation center at the Ablekuma Central constituency, misunderstanding ensued between the party agents of both NDC and NPP. The accused person, that's Collins Kweku, who is known as Kola, who claimed to be personnel of the National Security, came from nowhere to the Coalition Center after having a brief discussion with a member of parliament of the Ablekuma Central constituency who was standing at a distance. The accused got closer to the Coalition Center and fired indiscriminately. This is a police officer saying something about an officer friend, if you like. Fired indiscriminately into the crowd, and a bullet hit the left knee of Inspector Nixon Awuni, who was on duty at the Coalition Center. He also shot at the journalist, and the bullet hit his left ankle. Rashid Omar was also shot at, and the bullet hit his right knee and left chin. He says the Pius is presently in hospital, as we know. Suspect Collins Kweku is in his investigation caution statement to the police alleged that the misunderstanding, some persons removed a taser, his taser, or is it, from his side pocket. Hence, he also removed his side arm and started to fire, and the bullet hit the victims. What do you think? He said they removed a taser and then he decided to fire. This is police saying his own statement.
Okay, so Samson, first of all, per the fact, he is a national security operative, an officer of the state, and the Constitution provides for the use of reasonable force. If you have gone to use your weapon in a manner unacceptable, unwarranted, and you've deprived somebody of his right to life, fortunately for all of us, trial has commenced. It is important for us to pay attention to how transparent that trial would be. It is not for me to comment as to whether or not he was right or wrong, but the most important thing is that we have a fact sheet from what you said, that a police officer has been bold to put out these facts. The person is before court, he's been remanded. That is enough to show that the system is committed to being fair and ensuring the right thing is done. So I believe that all we need to do is to pay attention to the trial, follow it, so that at the end of the day, if the person, did what was really unacceptable, unwarranted, justice prevails. We want justice. So that will be my position.
All right. Okay, Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh, let's bring you in here. What would you say, for example, starting with the facts as we know them about Collins Kweku, the National Security Officer stationed at the presidency, and his situation? He's killed 2 people and wounded 1, as we understand.
Samson,
yes.
Thank you. When we, before we went into the elections, we being CDD, conducted a pre-election survey, and among the questions that we asked our respondents, Ghanaians, was whether or not they would feel safer and more reassured of their safety by the presence of armed security at polling stations and the like during election day. And
okay, and I need to state this.
Large majorities.
I have made if you like, a transpositional error. The people that he dealt with are all in injured and in serious critical situation. I think his situation is not one that there is death.
One has died.
Only one.
One has
Only
died.
one. Okay.
Because the Collins Kweku
Right.
Yes, because I'm also getting...
Right.
One has died. Died only 2 days ago.
Who is that? Who is...
I'll get you the name.
Only 2 days ago.
Do you have the name?
His picture is...
That's correct. That's correct. That's correct. There's only one. There's only one, not two. Yeah. Thank you. Let's go on, sir.
Okay. So I was saying that what our pre-election survey showed was that Ghanaians feel that the presence of armed military, security, state security are the principles of the election, voting, polling stations and collation centers and the like, give them some assurance of safety. So clearly, people welcome some security at these places, but they do that because they believe that the security posted to these places will provide them safety and protection. So when it degenerates into this, the video footage you showed is quite disturbing. It shows both that our collation centers are definitely overcrowded. Really, and when you have that size of crowd at the precincts of these collation centers, it's very likely to create a mob effect very, very quickly. And then on the other hand, they are also clearly over-policed and over-weaponized, right? So you have two sides, the people, too many of them there at the same time, likely to create a mob effect. And then you have, on the security side, too many of them there, too many weapons, likely also, if there is little provocation, to lead to the kind of regrettable violence that we've seen in this election in terms of just the sheer number of people killed. So I think for me, in terms of the facts of particular cases, I cannot speak to the facts of any one particular case. As you indicated, these are matters that are under investigation, and we all await the findings of these investigations. A single blood spilled in the process of choosing people who would serve us. It just makes no sense, right? If it is about choosing people to serve us, who have willingly put themselves out as interested in serving us in a democracy, then there's no room at all, zero tolerance for death or violence of this kind. So we definitely deplore this. I personally do. And the center that I represent has indicated so. Codeo has also indicated so. And we find no justification at all for any of this. Right? When we were going to the election, we were more worried about vigilante violence. We did a lot of work together with other partners and stakeholders to try and basically mitigate and stem that problem. So far, from the accounts that we have so far, we haven't reviewed all of our incident reports and others, but from the accounts we have so far, it appeared that we made progress in the area of vigilantism in this election. It's sad that, what we are now seeing is that maybe, the security services, unfortunately, they have basically overreacted in the use of force here, leading to this number of deaths. And so we await the investigations, but on my side, all I can say is that I think the lesson to be learned from this, we need to do something about the scenes, the marketplace scenes. It's almost like a soccer match. When you look at the scene, it doesn't look like a place where collation is happening or where voting has taken place. It looks like the aftermath of a soccer match, and whether the winning or the losing side, basically has turned disorderly. It doesn't look like a place where an activity like voting or collation has taken place. And I think we need to change that image. It is a blot on our otherwise peaceful election day and on our democracy. There has to be no room for a process that is about choosing a government of the people, by the people, for the people, to have this kind of human sacrifice, essentially,
right.
In the process of getting to that end. So I think the lesson we have to learn is,
yes, how
do we organize the spaces around collation? It appears the problem is largely not even a polling station problem. It's largely a collation station problem. And we have to definitely do something about how we organize collation, just the physical spaces in which we organize collation, the number of people, sheer number of people we allow, the crowd we allow around these places, which then also invites a disproportionate amount of weaponized security.
Right.
And
Prof,
I think for me, it's going forward, what we learn from it is what
right.
So
organizations like yours, the IDEG, among others, have complained about what encourages the impunity, which has become like a ritual.
Yes.
That these violence continue to happen because people find encouragement, especially people known to belong to the party in government. Often when they are the ones infracting the law, don't get punished. I just referred to the circumstance of the Hawaya Kumsin matter. And we know that she publicly admitted that this is what she's done. As we said, the police have not bothered to give any update about what exactly they are doing about it. It took public pressure before they invited her to take a statement, as they said. So what ought to be done? Beyond that, as we have given the narration, there are 2 people who were killed in Techiman, 1 in Sevilugu, 2 in Odododiodio, 1 in the Ablekuma Central. It's obvious from the charge sheet for Collins Kweku that they went before the death occurred. So they should be pressing fresh charges where the murders have occurred, shouldn't they?
Well, I don't, like I said, I don't know. I mean, when you're talking about charges and murder charges, you are really dealing with hard facts, that I don't have access to. What I can say, certainly, is that the matter of impunity is an important one. That impunity, whether or not it's impunity on the part of vigilantes or on the part of security personnel, definitely does leave a legacy of injustice. And so on the one hand, those who feel they haven't gotten justice harbor feelings of revenge. So these things then fester. It can show up in the next election. On the next opportunity that they get, they might retaliate. Then there's that impunity that also encourages the person who was the perpetrator or his or her allies to feel emboldened to continue to do more. So either way, I mean, both on the side of those who feel aggrieved and on the side of those who perpetrated the violence and were not held to account, impunity is not to be countenanced. And it is unfortunate that among the things that, we have over-politicized in this space, in this country, is a simple matter of law enforcement. Criminal investigation, law enforcement, there are almost like no sacred cows here anymore, But we need to allow the police to feel secure in the professional judgments that they have. We have to allow our police to work, to take the facts where it leads them, to draw conclusions, and then, if prosecution is warranted, to follow. These are the things that we would like to see. And I think that it should be possible for our political parties and the political class to at least agree on these basic things. That if we do not, allow stability, sanity, the rule of law to prevail in these things, we will continue to go into every election, right, with this level of apprehension. We go into every election with a high degree of apprehension because of what has not been done oftentimes about the last election.
The NDC minority in the current parliament is asking the IGP to resign because he has failed. You are familiar with what happens elsewhere in the world. Is this a good case where somebody should resign or some heads should be rolling?
Well, I think that I was going, even before you made reference to other places, I was going to say that, these things, in the matter of this kind, whether or not officials resign, when situations under their watch have gotten out of hand and have led to tragedies of this kind. In other cultures, people out of just matter of honor, just will step aside. Unfortunately, this is not the culture we have here, right? And there may be multiple reasons for it. I mean, people do not want to admit guilt. If you resign, it would almost mean that, well, you are admitting failure or guilt, and this is not a culture where people feel readily disposed to doing that. But yes, it happens in other cultures. But I think this is a very cultural thing. And I would actually be happy if we got to a point where, when things have gone wrong, badly wrong, if I might say so, when things have gone terribly wrong under one's watch, and innocent lives have been lost, that one would feel, some sense of honor and obligation to say, look, I accept responsibility for this. The buck stops here, and I step aside. That is fine with me. Whether or not it should be done in this particular case, it depends on the office holder. If he feels this way, that's fine. If he doesn't, and if it's a pointer or political principal,
Professor Prempeh, we have seen examples elsewhere. Where it takes, even lives are not lost, but people resign. That's what the NDC is saying. Good practice, good governance and good practice, good practice vindicates their point. That's what they are saying, that to have as many as 6 lives being lost in one election, and you are the head of the election security, and you appeared before Parliament ahead of the elections, and you were told to your face that if anything went wrong, you'll be held responsible. Should you even wait to be held, or you should be resigning? In fact, beyond the acts of violence, 6 lives have been lost.
I agree. I mean, look, I'm saying that in other cultures where this kind of stuff means anything to public office holders, you're right. In the Japans and in the South Koreas and other places, you would not wait for the body count. It would be expected. And this is why culture comes in. It would be socially expected that you would step aside. What I'm saying is that we have not built that culture. We have not placed on office holders that sense of moral obligation, where even where they are legally not culpable, they would feel morally, right? They would feel morally compelled to own up and say, look, this happened under my watch. I feel very sorry. I'm terribly sorry about it. It has dishonored me, and I will step aside. And it doesn't mean that you are legally culpable. But I think that in a culture where everything, where we put moral obligation, almost like we have stepped away so far from issues of morality, and everything is legalistic. Right? Like you said, this whole panel is full of lawyers. Right. But where everything is so legalistic.
Yeah. So, Prof,
the person says that I am not legally culpable. Right. Why should I step aside?
So let's end it on this note. Let's end it on this note. Should the IGP resign, or heads must roll in the process to the path of justice, at least for the 6 who have been killed?
I think I would not find it inappropriate if he did resign. But I would also say that, I think more importantly, let's get a speedy end to the investigations, and then if the heads must roll, that's where I think most of the heads might be rolling, because there must have been a commander in charge of that particular unit where these things happen. There must have been an officer. There were rules of engagement. Somebody must have stepped outside of the rules of engagement on that day and then fired a shot. So I think that basically following the chain of command, there has to be some accountability, whether it's from the top, in the middle, or down at the retail level, at the officer who shot level. Definitely more than one person, I think, ought to be held culpable eventually for this.
Very finally, and in 30 seconds, the minority suggests that there should be a sort of a commission or committee to investigate these matters, because the police cannot even investigate itself because they are culpable in these things.
Listen, look, when what was it, February 24th, riots happened, the peaceful march to the governor's office or mansion in Osu, and then what happened? This was a colonial power. It wasn't even electorally accountable to us at the time. We were subjects. But they felt some responsibility, at least, to investigate it in an impartial way. The idea of a commission doesn't. I don't find that out of place at all. The Watson Commission was called in, to investigate that particular incident, and the reports and the reforms for that actually set the ball rolling for the last stages of this, decolonization in the Gold Coast. So this, when you set a commission, it tells you that you find the situation abnormal. This shouldn't happen. In the case of the Gold Coast, we were supposed to be the model colony, right? And this happened in the model colony, and they felt, no, this is an aberration. It doesn't happen in the Gold Coast. So what happened? I think a count of 6 is 6 too many, and it warrants exceptional treatment. So yes, if a commission is what we need to do to signal that we take this seriously, we do not like this, it's abnormal, it's exceptional, we think it's 6 lives too many, that is a good signal to send. And again, I hope and pray that this doesn't get to become a political football between the political parties. We must have certain basic understandings that when things are exceptional and you admit that you do not want that to happen going forward, as we did with Ayawaso, then you have a commission to look into the matter and say, look, this is not something that we would like to happen, especially when one side is not inclined to trust, the organization to investigate itself, in this case, the police, or wherever the national security architecture for the election. So I think a commission, why not?
All right. Thank you very much. So yes, I clearly understand. We are going to take a break and end this part of the discussion. We come to look at the demonstrations and the game plan for the NDC and probe your evidence for why you still are where you are, that you reject the results. But 1 minute, 1 minute, and then we move on. Straight to your point, otherwise...
The first point I want to make is that it is a fact that it is unprecedented. What we have seen in this year's election, where 6 people have been killed, is unprecedented. And my brother, Afenyo Maken, has not been able to debunk that. As a matter of fact, there has not been any killing in any elections in this country. I was young during the 92 and the 96 general elections, but all the history records I have read on those elections doesn't have any record that anybody was killed. So it's not like we've had 2 or 3 people being killed in previous elections, where we can then say that 6 is on the higher side, so this is exceptional. This has never happened before. It didn't happen under Rollins, it didn't happen under Kufuor, it didn't happen under Mills, it didn't happen under John Mahama, And it should not have happened under President Akufo-Addo. And so this is a big shame and will forever remain a blot, not only on our democracy, but also on the reputation of the president under whose tenure this happened. Secondly, the justification being given by Mr. or Honorable Afenyo-Markin is very painful and sad. People have been shot unprovoked, and people have died as a result of that. And you are here justifying that oh, it's because of the way we conducted ourselves, and that they were pelting stones at the military and the police who were wielding guns. You spoke about reasonable force, the use of reasonable force by our law enforcement agencies to manage situations such as what we saw. Are you saying that it is reasonable for soldiers to shoot guns at people, pelting stones at them? Is that your understanding of reasonable force? That you would justify the killing of people in Ablekuma Central who pelted stones at the
So Afenyo has said that no killing is justified.
Yes, but in the same vein, he comes back to say that even though no killing is justified, the way they are conducting themselves,
they are expected to use reasonable force.
But are you saying that
any conduct seen as unreasonable cannot be justified?
You said you don't want to heckle me, so please don't.
Well, but coach,
you have your time. What I am saying, something. What I am
saying, not saying anything new.
No. I'm saying something new. So, what happened in Ablekuma Central? Nobody pelted stones at anybody. There was no provocation whatsoever. And so I expect Afenyo-Markin to condemn that. What happened in Techiman South? Nobody shot any gun. It was unreasonable for the military to have shot at those innocent people for pelting stones at them. Those who died were not even the ones who pelted the stones. And what Afenyo-Markin and those who speak like him must understand is that bullets don't discriminate.
Okay, thank you.
This could have been you, and it could have been any of us. So please.
Thank you.
And finally, something finally. You see,
we need to note. We need to note that not all the deaths resulted from security officers' action. As we know now,
out of the 6,
as we know now, in Savulugu,
yes,
what led to the death of the girl has been traced to the MP-elect's, his office, and another building by his office. And the MP-elect is NDC MP, correct?
The MP-elect shots that
ammunition has been retrieved from his office, and
because he was attacked in his office.
He's part of the suspects.
No, he was attacked in his office. Why will he shoot guns at people in his office? He was attacked in his office. All right. But the point I'm making here is that something, prior to these elections, the EC chairperson briefed the nation and told us that the military will not be used for purposes of election security as far as this year's elections was concerned.
That's correct.
So how come we saw soldiers and national security operatives armed to the teeth at constituency coalition centers? Who did that deployment?
Thank you.
That is why I'm saying that this is a leadership program.
Right. Okay, so,
you understand? This is a leadership program.
Yes, let's hear Afenyo, but as we were informed by the police, these persons or officers were to be on standby and to be called in as and when it was necessary for emergency situations.
They were there when we got to the constituency coalition center.
I saw some in a polling station where it was very peaceful. Actually, EC officers were sleeping because there was really no job to be done there. Yes, let's go.
Samson, we have had 2012 Azoka boys, what they did in Northern Region. We know that as a fact. We are also aware that the NDC national chairman, on tape, he only says that the means of that recording being done without his consent is his contention. However,
no. He says that recording is doctored. You heckled. What you're saying is false.
Thank you. It's okay.
He has not said that. And that matter is sub judice.
No, I'm not good. I am saying that if people have been incited to go on rampage, to destroy public property, people have been incited to go and attack individuals. Today, my brother Sami comes to sit here to say that, there must be condemnation. And I agree that in this democracy, anything we find unwarranted must be condemned. But what steps have you taken, even in your own party regional office, Ashanti region? Your party people shot at your own party people. Yes, at Ashanti region.
We are talking about election 2020.
I am telling you, matters. Any death anywhere is important. It matters. Your party people shot because you have internal party disagreement. Did your party condemn? Please stop this game. We have had an election. You are telling the whole world that since 92, no death ever occurred. I leave it to you and your country.
If you give an example of that, it will be good. Because people like Charles Rekurobe actually say that it's incontrovertible fact that deaths have only occurred at election 2020 under the Fourth Republic.
It has never happened before. So give us one example.
I'm not going to debate Dr. Rekurobe, but obviously people have their own opinions and their way of trying to paint
so thank you.
Presidency.
We take a break here. And when we return, we will find out why the NDC is still on demonstrations. Which fact did I misrepresent?
On the Kola issue.
Yep.
You see, because the matter is in court, I want us to be fair to him as an accused.
All right.
You know, yes. Why?
Yes.
Are we not supposed to be fair? You are a lawyer. You are saying that we.
Please proceed. Can we? It's just 1 minute. I need to move.
So you said in the charge sheet, no mention of killing.
Exactly.
Yes, I just wanted you to.
No, but I said that.
Death result.
I said that myself.
No. Please. You are not.
We take a break here. We'll be right back.
You are a lawyer. Where your lawyer.
You're welcome back. This is NewsFile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on NewsFile we put Ghana first.